Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. And today I am here with, and I'm not just saying this, I absolutely mean it, one of the, if not the top wedding magicians in the UK. A guy that has been involved in the entertainment and the magic industry his whole life, and also one of the nicest and friendliest people I have ever met. He would help anybody, no matter how successful he is. He's super awesome. He's absolutely brilliant. Everybody loves him. I am, of course, talking about Mr. Yorkshire himself, the one and only Mark Waddington. How you doing, mate?
Wow, that's probably the nicest introduction anybody's ever given me. So thank you very much, Craig. I'm very happy to be here tonight.
I'm honoured that you've come on because I know how busy you are. You know, we're filming this. We're filming this in September. And your calendar has massively opened up. I think you're doing like 85 weddings a week, and
it feels like it. It certainly feels like it.
Right. And you've obviously, and we'll talk about this, but obviously you've added strings to your bow with acting and things like that. So I know you're busy. So thank you very much for jumping on. I've been wanting you on the channel for a while. You and I have known each other for a long time. I remember in my very first house, you coming over and watching my competition act when I was entering Blackpool. Yeah, years ago now.
When would that be? That must be about 2009, somewhere about that.
It was a long time ago because it was in the old house, and I moved house just before I had Ryland, and Ryland's almost 9.
Right, goodness.
It must have been about 12 or 13 years ago, yeah, if not more.
Unbelievable. Well, no, it's an honour to be here, and seeing the names that you've already had here is wonderful to be included as part of them. So thank you very much.
I've just been treading water with all that lot. I've peaked now. I'm done. You're my David Copperfield. Richard Young stopped when he hit David Copperfield. I've got Mark Waddington. I'm shutting this whole thing down next week.
Oh, gee.
Exactly. But no, seriously, man. For those people that don't know this, because I've got a big audience for the podcast and the channel. I've got a big audience in America and Australia and Canada. More people watch from those countries than the UK. Obviously, everybody in the UK knows who Mark Waddington is. For those people that are further afield, they might not know you. So to give those people a bit of a frame of reference, I want to talk about your origin story. Sure. I will say up front, what I said in the intro is true. Mark dominates the wedding industry in the north of England, like absolutely dominates it. If you saw my interview with Owen Strickland, I would basically say who I think dominates the wedding industry in the Midlands. Yeah, I think you're the northern version of Owen Strickland, you know, just cheekier and shorter. But right. But yeah, I mean, you are very successful. So I think people need to understand that. And
well, that's very sweet.
It's so true, mate. And I want to find out, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. And I know that there's particular things that we want to hit on. But first of all, let's find out a bit more about you and how you got into magic, because your story is very interesting because you've been involved in entertainment for a very long time. What was the origin story? Because when did you decide you wanted to get into entertainment?
Okay, so my origin story is the copy and paste of the 5-year-old who got the Marvin's Magic set, wanted to do it and loved it. That's my simple beginnings. I was that guy who got the magic set, but instead of chucking it under his bed after 2 weeks, I kept going. I got a Marvin's Magic set. I had a magician for my 5th birthday party called Phil Magique. I stayed. In fact, my mum and dad met him in the supermarket a couple of years ago, and they said, "Do you know what? It's your fault that my son's doing this for a living now." So that's kind of how that was the initial startings. It was the magic set. And then I used to, well, I still kind of do as well, but I used to go to Butlins in Skegness for holidays. We weren't able to sort of travel abroad as kids with my parents' health, my mum's health and this, that, the other. So we had a lot of staycations and we used to go to Butlins a lot, and we discovered there was a magic shop in Skegness. So me wanting to learn more, I got my first proper dynamic coins from there. I used to buy old tenure stuff from there as well. I bought thumb tips, I bought magnets, and it was weird because the lady in the shop, we'd maybe go 3 times a year, but she always remembered me. And she'd always go, "I've got this for you, Mark. You'll enjoy this." And if I didn't have enough pocket money left, at the end of my holiday to buy everything I wanted, she'd give me it for whatever I had left. It was really sweet. And I think it was that sort of the Butlins sort of idea that made me go, actually, I want to be in entertainment. I loved the idea of being in show business and performing. I used to put on silly little shows as a kid, really, really stupid little shows, but we all did that at some point. And then when I was about, well, it's when I went to secondary school, I found out that my music teacher was my head of year as well. He was a magician and he used to work on cruise ships, and he sort of took me under his wing. And with that, he taught me more magic tricks. He taught me how to play the drums, which put me into the school band, which then meant when the school band went on tour around the local primary schools and we used to play music, I'd do magic in between the different songs that we played. So that was kind of the starting point there. Then my French teacher, her husband, wrote reviews for the Stage magazine, and he mentioned me to a gentleman called Peter Sanderman, who was the general manager of the City Varieties in Leeds, which is famous for the good old days, used to be on the BBC, you know, Leonard Cohen and all that lot. And he came to watch me do a tiny little charity show in Skipton. There must have been 50 people in the audience. He came to watch me and then put me on the good old days. So I, at the age of 11, I think it was 11 or 12, I can't remember, but either way, around that sort of age, I was already treading the boards in the variety circuit. I became the youngest person to ever appear on the good old days as a solo act, which was, I didn't realize how big of a deal it was at the time because I was 11 years old. I ended up making friends with loads of different comedians from the 80s, like Jimmy Cricket, Gordon Kay, Bobby Nutt, Johnny Casson, you know, people like that. They all took me under the wing and they'd sort of encourage me and help me out, and they'd teach me a little bit more about, you know, actually being on stage and, you know, the presence of that. I went on to do another 2 or 3 shows at the City Varieties, and then there was one where I was the only paid act, so it was a talent competition, and whilst the judges retired to make the decision, I was the act that was on to entertain the audience. So that's kind of the very basic starting of that. Then age 14 to 16, I gave up doing magic shows because I wanted to concentrate on my GCSEs. And I did very, 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 very averagely. I was the only straight C student in the entire school. So every other student got a mix of different, what do you call them, different grades. And I was the only person to get complete straight C's. Then I went on from there and I got an apprenticeship in British Telecom. I was part of the pilot scheme for doing fibre optic broadband, so what we all use now in our houses. I was on the test patch for that, and I started doing a few little close-up gigs in the meantime. I'd kind of taken that time from being about 16 to go, I want to learn close-up magic, so I did, and then realised that was far more interesting for me than being on stage, and then started building my diary from there. Age 20, I had a nervous breakdown and quit my job. I ended up very, very unwell with depression, quit the job and went full-time as a magician. That was in 2010 when I went full-time. And the rest...
Before we get on from there,
yep.
Before we go from there, from when you became a magician, let me ask you a couple of questions about that. So
sure.
Was that, I mean, so I suppose the first question was, you said you stepped away to focus on your education for a couple of years.
Yep.
Was it, you know, with all of the success that you'd achieved up until that point, was it difficult to like step away? Because it seems that like magic was a passion for you. It is now. Was it difficult to just go, right, okay, I'm done for a bit?
No, to be honest, it was easy to do because I didn't realise what I was doing at the time. I think as a naive 12, 13-year-old, I didn't realise the scale of what I was doing and the sort of shows that I was being booked for. I just was larking about on stage and getting paid a bit of money, and my dad would take me on the road and take me to do various shows and stuff like that. It was literally like, it was almost like a bonding exercise with my dad, you know. It was something a father-son sort of thing. I didn't realise what it was. It's only looking back now and looking back through the press clippings and stuff like that I realised, oh yeah, that was a big deal, was that. And so yeah, it wasn't difficult at all, to be honest, because I just realised that I needed to get GCSEs. And to be honest, even though I was doing all those shows, I didn't realise I could make a living out of doing magic. So it was never a concept to be a full-time magician. I knew I wanted to be a magician and I knew I wanted to be in the magic circle and stuff like that. Didn't realise I'd be able to make money out of it. So yeah, I just wanted to concentrate on getting my GCSEs. I knew that I wanted to go get an apprenticeship rather than going on to sort of further studies and stuff like that. So that was the goal at 14 to 16, was to be able to get an apprenticeship. And magic was just a hobby in the background, you know, watching Daryl's DVD and stuff like that in the background whilst I was doing maths and English and science and stuff like that. It was I didn't even think about it at the time.
Now, when you quit your job, And anybody that's listening to this is thinking, oh, he was an apprentice and then he quit his job. But you went from being an apprentice to be, because I knew you when you decided to quit. You went from being an apprentice to actually having a really good salary. Like
Yeah.
you were in a great position. You had a lot of responsibility. You had a company car from memory. You were kind of living the life that a lot of people who want that 9 to 5 life.
Yeah.
You'd achieve that success.
Yeah.
The question I get on this channel all the time, Mark, is I'm passionate about magic. I want to go full time. What should I do? I've got a job. What should I do? Am I going to be able to make ends meet? Is it going to work? Am I going to be like you said that you have a nervous breakdown?
Mm.
That's the catalyst for you quitting.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about what happened there? Would that be okay?
Yeah. So I'll kind of go into I've got to be careful with the detail that I go into because I wouldn't want to be slanderous or anything like that. But basically, something had happened in my private life where a friend of mine sadly died. He committed suicide, and I ended up blaming myself for what happened. Not so much for the reason why he unfortunately died, but I felt I could have helped, and I didn't, and that killed me. It absolutely killed me. And I went into work one day after I'd been to the doctors to discuss, mental health and to discuss my depression. And even back then, back what was it? I guess beginning of 2010, I think it'd be. Even then, mental health wasn't really discussed, and it wasn't as well known as it is now, and the resources weren't there. So I was I was put onto some medication. Went to work, and unfortunately something had happened at work which meant I had to leave. I couldn't physically stay in the office anymore. I drove home, tried to get hold of my upper manager to tell him that what had happened was wrong and to explain the circumstances of my health and everything like that. And he said something that made me went, do you know what, forget this, I'm done. So I went on long-term sick. I went on sick for about 4 months, something like that. And I think this is an important thing here. I never actually planned to go full time with magic at that point. There wasn't actually an intention. What I did whilst I was off sick to give me some form of focus was I started to build up my magic business, and I started to take it seriously and to understand marketing, to understand how to get work, contracts, invoicing, agencies, stuff like that. I was working on that side of things, not necessarily to go full time, but so that I could have an extra income on the weekends. Okay.
Yeah.
And I plan to go back to work on the 2nd of September 2010. And I had a return to work meeting probably about 2 weeks beforehand. I had to go in for various meetings during the time. And I remember, I'll paraphrase, but I remember it very well. I'd come in for this interview, discussing coming back to work, and the manager was like, how are you? How are you feeling? And I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm kind of ready to get back to work. And they're like, oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear you want to be part of the team again. Now on to your disciplinary. And I'm like, excuse me? Yeah, onto your disciplinary. So basically the way that it worked is I had taken more than 100 days off work. However, I tried to go back to work partway through that, and I went in for half a day, couldn't do it, came back. So that counted as 2 long periods of absence rather than 1, despite me being in the office for 3 hours, counted as 2 periods of absence. And I'm like, so you're going to discipline me after all of this that I've gone through, and trying to get back on top of myself. I was 21 at the time, and I didn't understand mental health, and I didn't understand having these feelings because it was never talked about. And the idea that I was going to be disciplined for not feeling right just ate at me. Now, what I always did as my sort of fail safe is I always had a resignation typed up in my pocket for any meetings that I had to go to, just in case I didn't like something. And on this occasion, I went, right, you best read this. So I handed it over to him. We had HR on the speakerphone, and he said, can you explain this? I says, yeah, that's me giving my notice. I no longer want to work for this company. And then the conversation changed, and it was, what can we do to keep you here? You're such a valued member of the team. And I said, you can half my hours and double my pay. And he said, no, we can't do that. I says, right, well, I'm gone. I'm done. And he goes, well, what will you do? I says, do you know what? I'll be a magician. He's like, are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure I'll do it. I've been working on building this business up. I've had success in the past. This will be a breeze. And 2nd of September 2010 was the day I cleared out my desk and handed in my pass card, and I went full time from there. And I have never, ever looked back from that decision. It was a complete epiphany moment for me. It really was. It was, I can be my own boss. I was dealing with contracts at work where it was £2-3 million of work, and I was on my salary, which was a very, very good salary for a 21-year-old, you know. But at the same time, I'm dealing with millions of pounds worth of work, yet I'm only getting this tiny little bit. So it didn't feel fair. So I went, you know what, I'll be my own boss. And I just worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. And here I am now.
And you know what? I know that when you went full time, you started smashing it almost immediately. Part of that was because you were doing gigs beforehand while you were there, and you kind of started gigging already. But the other thing is, and this is the thing that I've banged about on this channel over and over again, is you took it seriously. You really, and you see the amount of magicians that full-time magic means that they sit at home and don't do anything and don't learn about business and don't learn about marketing, and they wonder why they're getting no work. While you were going out there and making it happen. I mean, how important is it to treat your magic business like a business?
It's that old adage of, you know, that show business is two-thirds business and 1/3 show, isn't it? You know, it's the business side. And I don't profess to know everything about business. I'm not the best businessman out there. To be honest, I've dropped quite lucky in some senses, but I understand the importance of contracting, invoicing, dealing with clients, how to speak to clients, stuff like that. And I've learned as I've gone along. Don't get me wrong. You know, back in 2010, I was nowhere near as proficient as I am now. But you've just got to put the time and the effort into it, and just learn and pick up little bits of details and information that you can as you go along, and try them out and see if they fit you. And if they don't fit you, don't do them. But if they do fit you, you work on it and you expand on it and expand on it. So that's kind of what I did. It's like you mentioned that, you know, with the weddings, and I'd say that 95% of my magic work is weddings. The other 5% is corporates, it's parties, whatever. But 95% of it is weddings. That wasn't a plan. That happened by accident. I ended up going, do you know what? I'll do a wedding fair. Let's see what these are like. And ended up becoming a wedding magician, and went, oh, I like this concept. I like that people are coming to me and they're wanting to book me for this, that, the other. And I went, right, I'll go on with that. And then I just expanded until I become pretty much sole wedding magician, you know.
But that's such an important thing from a business point of view. Like, you decided to niche into the wedding industry. I mean, at some point, I mean, you know, your website is Yorkshire Wedding Magician, isn't it?
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, you were like, you know what? I like this wedding thing. I'm good at it. I can get work from it. Right. Let's go and get a domain name, YorkshireWeddingMagician.co.uk. You had the plan to dominate the industry in your area, and that's what you've done.
I probably have done, actually. Yeah. So I've done. I think, if I may speak in a sort of a big-headed way, I do feel like I've certainly become one of the very top names to ask for in Yorkshire for wedding entertainment. I genuinely feel that, you know, my success rate and my booking rate and everything like that show that, you know, it's I think I've now done, it's about 1,500 weddings I've done now, somewhere in that sort of region. In the past sort of 12, well, let's not count last year, but, you know, in the past sort of 12 years, I've done about 1,500 weddings, and that's not the rest of it. You know, I've probably done 500-600 corporate party, blah blah blah, this, that, the other. But yeah, 1,500 weddings, and it's, yeah, you know, there's days where I can't physically fit people in the diary because other people book me 2 years in advance. You know, and that's a great position to be in. It's a very humbling position to be in. I've had clients that have booked me before they booked the venue. You know, they've gone, we're getting married on this day. It's either going to be this venue or this venue. We're not quite sure, but we definitely want you. And the fact that, you know, there's been many cases where they've booked me before the photographer, before they've thought about the important things like the dress, the photographer, the videographer, the venue, the styling, the whatever, you know, and that in itself is really humbling. It's really, really nice that people go, yeah, you'll do. So,
and, you know, I gig up in Yorkshire from time to time, as you know, and every single time I'm up there, I bump into somebody that says, oh, do you know Mark Waddington? Yes, yes, I do. Yes. Yeah. And it happens every single time. Like, every single time I'm anywhere near Yorkshire doing a gig. We've met a magician at a wedding. His name, hang on a minute, let me use my psychic powers. Was it Mark Waddington? Yes, it was. But the reason I bring that up is you built a brand up. Like, you are memorable. A lot of magicians struggle to get people to remember who they are.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you know, 2 weeks removed from seeing the magician at the gig, it'll be like, oh yeah, I met a magician, I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers Mark Waddington. Is that by design or is that by luck?
It's pure fluke. I think I've just got one of those personalities, and my performance style is very. I don't take the magic that seriously, to be perfectly honest. The magic is not important to me, because ultimately at a wedding you're there to entertain people. You're not there to show how wonderful, mystical, Merlin, magic-y sort of thing you are. It's a case of you're there to entertain people, and I put my focus on being funny, being personable, being being someone that they can relate to, becoming that person that. It's like a lot of my clients say, you started as a hire and you became a friend, and that's an important thing to me. I treat all my clients like friends. I talk to them like friends. There's times where we'll bump into each other and we'll go for a beer. And this could be 6-7 years down the line from when I've done the wedding. I just like people. I just really like people, and that I think that's the important thing with magic is if you don't like people, then you shouldn't be in this industry. You can't be getting jaded by the fact that people want to talk to you, or that they want to watch you, or they want to they want to worship you, to excuse a horrible phrase, but if they want to do that, you've got to embrace it, and you've got to be nice to people. And being nice is far more important than anything, and that should be at the top of every business book, is that if you're not nice to them, they're not going to A, want to hire you, and B, they're not going to remember you. So I make sure people remember me, be it through my very, very unique camp brand of comedy, or for the tricks that I do, or for some of the routines that I do are unique to me. For any reason, as long as they remember me, that's the important thing. So.
And that's what you've done, though. But you do things over and over again to make sure that people remember you. Like you are quintessentially Yorkshire. Like you look up Yorkshire in the dictionary, and there's a picture of you going, hey, like, hey, you've created your own tricks with tea bags and stuff,
Yeah.
and Yorkshire tea bags, haven't you? I mean,
yeah.
you really embrace this thing. I mean, and to be clear to anyone watching this, Mark didn't create this trick, card in tea bag, I think it is, or something. You didn't create this trick to sell to other magicians. You just created it because you wanted to do something that no other magician does, that fits with your brand, which I think is just the perfect example of how far you go to make sure that people remember you. I mean,
that's it. Yeah, I am the teabagging magician. So, one of the lines that I started using in the past sort of few months is, "Oh, it's not often you go to a wedding and get teabagged by a magician, is it?" And then just walk off at that point. I tell you what, it leaves them laughing. It really does.
oh my gosh, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Oh, you need to hear the routine nowadays. I know you saw me perform the routine a few years ago, but since then it's evolved into something that it just throws it into a shadow of its former self. The humor, the trick is exactly the same. The humor, the lines, the gags, the innuendo has just gone boom, 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 until it's no longer about a magic trick. It's literally a series of dick jokes, to be honest.
But you know what? There's going to be people watching this. I know there's going to be people watching this that go, "Oh, that's very lowbrow entertainment." Magic shouldn't be. You shouldn't be talking about dick jokes. You shouldn't be using things like the ILC deck or sponge ding dongs. You should make it very, very serious and have a presentation about the solar system and planetary alignment and stuff. But for the people that say that, have you ever worked in an actual gig?
Do you know what? You turn up to a wedding and they're all rugby lots or squaddies or whatever. They want that dirty, crass humour. Now, I'm not saying you should always go straight in with a fisting joke. That shouldn't ever be a thing that you should go into. You need to.
I've just found a quote for this video. Yeah, Mark Waddington, never go straight in with a fisting. Right, okay.
Exactly. But things like, so with I can take my humour and my comedy in various different directions. I have 3 test jokes at the beginning that are very, very low key, innuendo, a bit raunchy, and maybe a little bit twisted, and I will take those. I'll see what those 3 reactions are. That will tell me how far I can take things. I have no problems with swearing whilst I'm working, provided I'm not the first person to swear. Mm-hmm. I will never swear until somebody else swears in front of me. As soon as that group has started swearing in front of me, now don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be dropping in the C-bomb and stuff like that, but I'll go to a certain level with it, but you've got to be on par with your audience. And I think that if you try to be too highbrow, or you try to be too, that's beneath me sort of thing, but that's where your audience is. They're not going to gel to you if you can't be on their level. They don't want someone who thinks they're high and mighty. They want someone that they can go for a beer with. They want someone that they could sit down and have a conversation with. That's the important thing to me. You are not there on a wedding to be the most important person in that room, because you are not. The bride and the groom, or the bride and the bride and the groom, they're the most important people in that room. I'm just an add-on. You can have a wedding without me, and you'll have a very, very good wedding without me as well. Having said that, if you get me, it's going to be really, really good. Very, very different thing though. But you've got to realize that when you come into this industry, you are so easily replaceable. What they could do is they could take that money that they're spending on hiring you, they could spend it on a few bottles of champagne. Do you know what I mean? Won't be as memorable, but they could easily take that money and spend it on drinks for everybody instead. So you've got to know your place, you've got to know your station in it, and you've got to be on a level with them. I tell you what, I'll let you into a secret though. Turns out, like, your old ladies and like your old sort of women's institute one, they love dildo jokes. Absolutely love them. So just keep that in mind.
That's great.
So gotta be subtle. Gotta be subtle. But
subtle dick jokes. Got it. So here's the thing. There's going to be people that are watching this that live in America, and the guys in America, and I've spoken to them about this. They think the concept of UK magicians doing weddings is just incredible, because they don't do that. You don't have.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's a really big opportunity for somebody over in the States. I mean, I've seen the weddings in the States. They have lavish weddings. You can be the guy over in America that's really kind of, there's an opportunity there. There's a huge opportunity. And all it takes is one person to do it. I mean, how many weddings do you get off the back of being seen at a wedding?
Oh, I generally get 1 or 2 minimum from each wedding that I do, without even trying. So, and that's not even doing the marketing. That's just me being good on the day, I suppose. So
what advice would you give somebody who wants to set up as a wedding magician, wants to penetrate into the wedding market, whether it be in the States or in the UK? How do they make it work? You talked about wedding fairs.
Yeah.
Is that the way to go?
I think it's certainly one of the ways to go. I think the important thing to remember at first is you've got to understand what a wedding actually is. A lot of people go into doing wedding magic and they've never been to a wedding. And they don't know what it is. They don't know where the laws are. They don't know where the key points are. They don't know what to expect on a day. They just think, oh, I'll turn up, I'll do me 2 hours, and that's it. And it doesn't work like that. You've got to understand what a wedding is. And I know that sounds like a really crass statement, but you've got to understand what it is. It's a lot more than 2 people getting married. You've got to understand the mechanics of it. Why this happens at this time, why this happens at that time, why the photographer does this, why the videographer does that, why the sabotage is done at this point, little things like that. You've got to understand why. Unfortunately, the only way to understand that properly, in terms of from an operational point of view, is you've got to go do it, which isn't great, because you don't want to be that magician at a wedding who's not very good. It's a really awkward place to be. It's that old adage of how do you get experience without doing the work, and how do you get work without the experience, so go out and do it. I think the important thing though is you've got to be honest with people that are booking you. Say, look, I've not done many of these. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to do it for 50 quid. I'm willing to do it for a go on the buffet or whatever. I'm willing to do that and just learn your chops. One of the most important things to me is you've got to make friends with all the other suppliers. That one is, like, I make a point of making friends with photographers, with venue coordinators, with videographers, with anybody that's essential on the day. Make friends with them, especially the photographer, because they're the one that generally the bride and groom and the couple will spend most time with. Impress the photographer. If you impress the photographer, they're going to start sending you photos. If you impress the photographer, they're going to tell their future clients that, oh, you're looking for some entertainment on the day, get in touch with Mark Waddington, get in touch with Bob Smith, get in touch with, I don't know, John Doe, that sort of thing. Get in with the photographer. And I mean on a human level. Again, it's about being personable. It's not, don't think of it as a business transaction. Don't try to make friends with them for a business reason. Genuinely go and be friends with them. I'd go on networking events, which was predominantly, well, it was all wedding suppliers, where we did a ghost tour around York, and we went for a couple of beers afterwards. We didn't even talk about weddings the entire time. There was no mention of weddings whatsoever. That was one of the best things that I ever did, because it got me knowing half a dozen wedding photographers in the immediate area. It got me knowing some of the venue coordinators, and then they started going, actually, we like Mark as a person, so we'll start asking him to do our fairs. Or, you know, when you turn up and such a photographer's there, they know how you work, they know your style. So then makes this wedding dream team thing. And, you know, I sort of say that quite a lot to couples. You know, if they mention that the videographer is such and such a person, photographer is such and such a person, the stylist is such and such a person, the makeup this, that, the other, with a wedding dream team, you know, because we all know how each other works. Okay, maybe not so much with the you know, hair and makeup, but, you know, I know how such and such a photographer works, so I know how to work around them. He also knows how I work, so he knows where my good shots are, he knows where my good angles are, he knows when he can take pictures, when he can't, he knows that if he comes close enough, we're gonna have a bit of banter together, you know, little things like that. So get them to know you as a person and understand you and like you. If you like someone, you're going to want to promote them, you're going to want to be around them, you're going to want to do work with them. So that is a very important thing to me. Be friends. You know, it's not all about business. You know, it's about being friends with people. And I tell you what, you'll start getting the word of mouth recommendations. Before you know it, your diary will start filling up and filling up and filling up and filling up. So that's why I say be friendly. That's
brilliant advice. Now, you have literally written the book on wedding magic, haven't you? Can we talk about
that? Yeah. I've written it.
I've been telling you need to lecture for years, because you've got so many great. Your material is fantastic. Your delivery is awesome. You've got so many wonderful ideas, and I've been telling you need to lecture, and hopefully
I've done a lecture.
You've done one lecture, dude. You need to do a hell of a lot more.
Oh yeah, I think for me it was a case of because I don't like performing for magicians. It's not part of my business model.
Actually, before we talk about the book, I want to bring that up, because I remember the first time you and I bumped into each other at Blackpool, and we'd known each other for a while. And I was like, "Oh, show me a trick." And you were like, "No, I don't do tricks for magicians." Yeah. And that's always been a rule. Whenever, and just to be clear for the people watching this, it's not because he's shit. Like, I've literally been this guy's cameraman. I've gone to gigs and I've just filmed him, and the reactions are off the wall. I wish I could get people to react as well as Mark does. And he's so like slick, and you do it all. You do coins, you do bill switches, you do cards, and it's all so good. So it's not because you're rubbish, but you'd never perform to magicians. And I remember 2019 Blackpool, just before COVID, and they asked me to do the bear pit. I'd kind of been out of magic for a long time, and I came back into magic then. And Russ Brown said, "Will you do the bear pit?" And I was like, "Yes." I was like, "Who else have you got?" And they were like, "Mark Waddington." And I was like, no. There's no way Mark Waddington is going to put himself into a position where he's having to perform magic in front of magicians at the world's largest magic convention. No, we got Mark Waddington. Shut up. And there I was, walked into the bear pit, and there's Mark Waddington. So how come you don't like performing to magicians? And how come, I know we're kind of deviating now, but how come you decided to, after all these years, put yourself into the single most, for those people that don't know what the bear pit is, it's horrible. You're in a massive room. You've got like tables, 6 tables. There's about 50 or 60 magicians around each table sitting down. They've all got their arms folded, looking like glum, and you've got to walk over to one and go, it's kind of like right impression. And then and then you've got to do it in the same room as another bunch of magicians are doing the same thing, so you can't hear yourself. It's a nightmare. The bear pit's a nightmare. I remember seeing David Roth try and do it years ago, and he had Greg Wilson on one side of him, Jay Sank in the other, and he died on his arse. So why? Tell me. So first of all, why do you not perform for magicians? And then why did you decide to do that?
It's just never interested me. It's just not, because I'm not doing groundbreaking stuff. I'm not coming up with the next big idea in magic. I'm not trying to fool anybody, you know. And to be honest, even in magic for, you know, your regular spectators, I'm actually not trying to fool them. I'm trying to have a good time with them. But it's just not been my thing to entertain magicians. I don't know. I enjoy conversation with magicians. I love hanging out with magicians, but the magicians I love hanging out with most are the ones that we talk about our kids, we talk about days out, we talk about theme parks, we talk about cars, this sort of thing. They're my favorite magicians, you know. It was never part of if we're going on a business side of things, it was never part of my business model to be a magician's magician. So yeah, that's why really. You sit and look at people at Blackpool doing all these amazing things. You look at people like, I don't know, like Ashley Goodwin, who are doing things that are just so phenomenally amazing, and it just makes you go, I'm not even good enough to do this. And I think that's part of it. I've never thought I was good enough to try and fool magicians. That's probably the main thing of it. You ask how I ended up doing the bear pit. You probably know that I work for Blackpool Magic Convention. I am the social media manager. I look after the Facebook pages, the Twitter, the Instagram. I do the announcements. I do all that sort of stuff. I build the live calendars. I run the app. So that's kind of how I initially started. And then Russ Brown asked me one day. He just got in touch. It was maybe about, I don't know, 6 weeks before the last. I think it was 2020. Did we have 2020? We did. We had 2020's convention. So it was about 6 weeks before, and Russ rang me up as he would normally do to discuss bits about the convention. Or we need to announce this name, we need to do that. And he goes, oh, by the way, I want you to do the bear pit as well. What? Yeah, you can do it. Really? Yeah. All right then. So it's like, what the fuck will I do? I've got no idea what I'll actually do on this thing. And he says, just do your act. And I did. And it went down really well. But again, I wasn't focused on tricks. I did, my routine was, I produced a lollipop, I did a sponge rabbit routine, which is basically a routine to pack in as many dildo jokes as I can. I did a bill switch, I did the ringing tea bag, and that was my act. And I did that 6 or 7 times, however many tables there were. But I was doing my gags. I wasn't cutting out any gags. I was doing all the humor. I was treating it like I do at work, even to the point where rather than having a table, I pushed the table out of the way and I got 5 or 6 people up as it would be in a drinks reception and perform like that. Obviously opened up so that the seated audience could see, but I treated it like that and it seemed to go down quite well. And I looked around the audience. I saw some really good names in that audience. I don't necessarily mean like your Jay Sankeys and people like that, but I mean like working magicians. From I saw a lot of the London boys, I saw a lot of the Up North boys, and people like that. Matt Windsor was on that night. Do you remember as well? Matt Windsor did that one as well, and working alongside Matt Windsor in itself was a great thing because up north in sort of Manchester where he's the name. He was the guy who organised all the match day for Man United. He organises the big dues, and it was just lovely to be on a bill with him as well, and yourself. And who was the other guy? There was an American guy, wasn't there?
Oh, Ian Moran.
Ian Moran was on as well. That's right. Yes, there was. It was a really good.
And then Kyle
Marlett. No, Kyle.
Yeah,
Kyle
not Kyle Penner. It's the guy that brought out the coin thing through Vanishing Ink. Yeah.
But he did a lecture that year as well, didn't he? I know that much. But yeah, he was. It was great to work with all these people, and we were all on a par. We were all peers in the same position. We were all shitting ourselves about what we were doing because we realised that in front of each table there was 200 magicians sat there, and it was just intense. And I just remember, you'll remember, I was sweating like mad. I was an absolute mess. I was shaking like this. I went outside for a breather beforehand and I got locked out. So 2 minutes before I'm due on the bear pit, I'm just go calm down, went outside, and because I didn't have an access all area pass at that point, they wouldn't let me back in. I had to go join the massive queue. So then Russ Brown had to go get Katie Trickett to go to the front door and go, you need to let him through, he's on in 2 minutes, and then went into it. And I think the hardest thing for me was looking out on the audience and seeing there's people that I've idolized, and I've looked at how they do business and the sort of work they do, and I've seen them on the telly, and I've seen them all watching me. Oh, damn, that was hard. But I tell you what, I'd do it again.
It's like a it's like a button, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a job. I mean, I didn't like the, what was it? I had to stop drinking the night before, basically. I cut myself off at about 9 o'clock. And I didn't like the idea of being on at 10 a.m. But other than that, honestly, if they asked me to do it again, I'd do it. I'd do the exact same shit again, but I'd do it in a heartbeat because I actually, as much as it was the most nervous I've ever been in my entire life, I loved it. I just showed that I could do it, but at the same time, I'm still not interested in trying to impress magicians. I'm happy for magicians to watch me, and if they like what I do, that's great. If they don't, that's fine. Somebody else is on in 6 minutes' time. That's kind of my approach to it now. So
that's great, absolutely fantastic. That's awesome. But we got back to the original question, which is we deviated onto that.
All right.
The question was about the wedding book. and lecturing, and you've done one lecture,
One lecture.
but you've written the book on wedding magic, and I want you to promote this because I think it's amazing, and I think more people should get it.
All right, it's called How to Be a Wedding Magic Rock Star. It's not a long read. There's 20 odd pages, but it's solid gold advice on the things you need to do. There's a 3-page essay in there on table approach and table approach theory, and it tells you things that most people wouldn't normally tell you, and it's stuff that I've learned over the years, and it's stuff that I've learned from speaking to venue coordinators about their pet peeves about what magicians do. Okay, I've gone into every aspect of when you perform for the couple, how you perform for the couple, what you do in the lead up to it, when you exit the room, things like this, the important things that you don't. Anybody can learn tricks, but they don't teach you how to approach a room. And even though it's written in a wedding basis, you could easily apply it to the corporate side of things. Just replace the word wedding with corporates. Is pretty much the same sort of thing. But my theory on it is quite different to most magicians on when to actually entertain the couple, who I speak to, how I do it, what I say to the photographers. It's like my entire couples performance, for example, is scripted for photo opportunities. And that's something that you don't really learn as a magician. You learn how to do your tricks, but I've designed mine so that you could snap a camera pretty much at any point and it would look like a magical moment. It would look like something exciting's happening. There's even gags in there that get the photographer to take pictures at certain points that are irrelevant to the actual trick that you're doing, but it looks good on the camera. So that means you're going to get put into the photo album. The way that I tell jokes to get them to laugh, even when nothing's happening, even when they're putting a card back into the deck or whatever, I'll say something that gets them belly laughing, so you get that reaction picture. That's an important thing to me. The book, it's that long since I've read it, I can't even remember what's in it myself. But yeah, there's the do's and don'ts. There's the way that what I do in preparation for a gig, and I've also included in there one routine, which is one that I do for the couple, which is when I do their exclusive performance. And it's not only does it teach you how to do the trick, it's scripted. It's got my full script in there, and it explains why I do this at that point, why I do that, why I do this. It's all scripted in there so that you can effectively take that out and you can create that wow moment. You can get them to keep this thing that you give them. It's like a potted history of how to be a wedding magician, I think. And it seems to have done well. I've sold quite a few copies in the past, and I think I've sold about 300 of them now, which to me is phenomenal. That 300 people even wanted to read what I had to say, and I sold a few during lockdown. That was quite nice. And yeah, in fact, I am planning a rewrite of it as well, with the things that I've learned since lockdown as well, because things have changed ever so slightly. So that'll get rewritten and expanded on as well. But if anybody wants to buy it, I'll give you the link, Craig, and if you want to pop that somewhere. If anybody does buy that, when I do the re-release, I'll effectively credit that towards the cost of the re-release.
Tell me, right, I'm going to put the link in the description and down below, but where do they go to buy it? Is it an email address? Is it a website?
You go onto my website, so it's mark-waddington.co.uk/shop, and there's only one thing on there. It's the ebook. It's not an instant download. It won't come to you instantly. You buy it, and then I'll send you it within 24 hours. That way you know it's coming from me. I make sure that everything's fine and this, that, the other. But yeah, so it's a good read. I feel like it's a nice little handbook to have, and it's certainly a good starting point if you're wanting to get into weddings. It might even, seasoned wedding magicians have picked it up and gone, actually, I'd never thought about that before. So, there might be some little nuggets in there, and it's only 15 quid for the book. So for 15 quid, even if you get one little scrap of information out of there, it's worth it. That 15 quid could change the way that people think of you as a performer completely. So
fantastic. And genuinely, you're one of you're one of a handful of people that I can't think of many people who know as much about the wedding industry as you do. Like, genuinely, it's absolutely true. Now, I want to talk about a couple of other things in a second, and you know what I'm heading on to. But before we get there, I want to touch on a couple of other things as well. We've talked exclusively about close-up, but I've seen you perform on stage. I mean, you're a damn good stage performer.
Yeah, I'll be on stage for quite a while.
I remember the first time we worked on stage together. I was there with my illusion act, with the old illusion act with Russell and Anna, and you were comparing and doing your cabaret show, and it was
That
amazing.
was, that was the charity show that you spot on, wasn't it? Yeah, you
I remember watching you on stage, thinking, I don't want to follow this. I don't want to follow this.
First out, didn't I? Yeah, yeah, I kind of, I don't know. I got so far into the sort of close-up side of things that eventually I just wasn't taking the bookings for stage, so it kind of dropped off a little bit. Having said that, beginning of lockdown, I wrote a brand new stage act, which it gave me the spur to put things on the road. However, the act that I wrote was based around Tiger King. You remember that thing that everybody watched at the beginning of lockdown?
Oh yeah. I was one of the few people that didn't actually watch it, but
really?
I know the premise. I read the synopsis. It's just I was really busy in lockdown, so I never got around to watching it. But yeah, I know what you mean.
I wrote an act, and of that act, there was about 2 or 3 routines that had kind of a loose. Well, one routine was very much themed on Tiger King, and there was certainly references to it throughout the act. And I kind of realised that people have forgotten about it now, you know. But let's be honest, when we went into lockdown back in March 2020, we all thought this will be over in 3 or 4 weeks. How wrong we were. But yeah, so I kind of wrote this thing going, right, once this is over in a couple of months' time, I can pop this on the road, because I'd been asked to go up to Edinburgh to do not the Fringe. I forgot what it's called, but it's like a magic night they put on up there. It's Elliot Bibby's thing, and he's certainly involved in it. And it's like, right, that's my goal. I'm just going to get something sorted that's going to be workable for that. I'm going to do it I'm going to test it out in a few clubs. I'll do it in a few pubs, whatever. And then obviously that never happened through lockdown and various tiers of things. So yeah, I'm currently in the process of trying to rewrite that and taking out the references that were very early 2020 and making them a little bit more universal now. But watch this space; it'll pop up soon. There is certainly a plan to.
There's a plan to get back on stage at some point.
There is, yeah. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be my main thing. It's going to be more of an add-on. I think it's going to be you can book me to do close-up and you've got a 20-minute cabaret on the end sort of thing. It's going to be that kind of thing. That's where I'm thinking of it. But that's not to say that 20 minutes wouldn't be a standalone thing somewhere if needs be.
Okay, that's cool. And you mentioned it briefly, so we'll talk about Blackpool.
Yep.
I suppose, how did you get on? How your role in Blackpool is kind of really quite immersive. I mean, you're the guy that really makes sure that people know about it. So
yeah, if you were ever on the Facebook page, the Facebook group, and Blackpool Magic Convention replies that it's me on the end of it.
So I've got 2 questions. One, how did you get that gig? Because that's a sweet gig to get. Mm-hmm. And secondly, we've obviously not really had Blackpool in 2021. We had the virtual thing, which was lovely and nice and wonderful.
Yeah.
But as far as we're aware, Blackpool's coming back next year.
Mm-hmm.
As long as everything continues to go as we are seeing it going in the UK, and things aren't going to turn to shit, then we're gonna see Blackpool next year. So when can we start to expect to see announcements? When can we start to expect to find out what's going on? And yeah, so 2 questions there. How did you get the gig? And can you tell us anything about 2022?
Okay. Question number 1, by accident, which is a theme with me. Basically, I set up a little fan group. I set up the Blackpool Magic Conventioneers, which was meant as a little Facebook page so that, you know, that people that were going to the convention could arrange meetups, they could arrange car shares, they could get excited about what dealers were bringing things out. Then Russ Brown and Russ Stevens and Guy Barrett and everybody involved in the core team at Blackpool saw it and went, oh, this is quite good, so we'll start giving you some information to put on there. And we ran that through, and that went through, what year was it? I think it was 2017. And it would have been 2017. And then they went, actually, this is quite a big deal. It went from having 50 people to 100 to 500 to 1,000 to 2,000. This was in the space of like 6 weeks. You know, it grew. And then after that, they kind of went, right, well, we want to bring it on board and we want to actually take it on as being the Blackpool's Facebook presence. You know, there'd never been any Facebook presence. It was I introduced that page around the time that the management changed. So I think that was beneficial. It was well timed. And then, I became sort of a social media manager for them. And I'm kind of a go-between between people on, you know, people that are turning up as our fans and our punters, and it's that human connection between the company, if you like, and the convention, and then everybody who comes along. So that's my role. In terms of 2022, I don't actually know that much yet. If I'm honest, I've been quite busy and I've not had a chance to sort of catch up with everybody. But I did a job with Russ Brown last week, and he gave me a few sort of insider information things. I think we'll probably start pushing out announcements in the next few weeks. It may be a slightly different kind of convention this year. Obviously, there's travel restrictions and stuff like that still in place, and we don't really know how things are changing. But I guarantee it'll be an amazing convention. It will be. I don't know. Blackpool's Blackpool, isn't it? Blackpool is just an amazing environment. Excuse me, an amazing environment. It's just a great place to be immersed in magic, and there's going to be great gala shows, there's going to be great acts. I was told of one name that I am absolutely sworn to secrecy on, but I guarantee you won't have heard of them, but I guarantee when you see who this person is, you'll be like, that is one of the best bookings you've ever seen. So watch out for that when that does get announced. But that's all you're getting for now. So give it another few weeks, and I imagine I think once we know a little bit more about what the whether there's going to be any restrictions or anything like that, I think that's when we'll start to really push it. But I know that there is a plan there. I know there's a scheduling that's already there as well. So we're kind of on par with the timings that it would normally be. Just obviously we're just holding back until we know a little bit more about government and regional and national restrictions.
Cool. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that everything continues to go the way it
Good.
goes.
Yep.
Right. Now, this has been an incredible interview. You've been so free with your information about weddings and yourself and your life, and it's all been absolutely fascinating. But there's something else that I really would like to talk about if I can.
Yep.
And it's the reason why this interview is going out now. It's because we are in September in Suicide Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. And for all your success, and I want people to understand, you have had the career that most magicians would dream of. You've achieved a lot of success. Mm-hmm. You've never had to worry about your mortgage. You are very in demand. The amount of times that you offer gigs to other magicians because you're just overloaded and you can't cope. You're respected by your peers. But then there's another aspect to your life as well, which, and we touched on it very, very briefly when we talked about the reason you went into magic was because of mental health. And that's something that's kind of continued to affect you over the span of your career as a magician. And I know you want to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to talk about it.
Absolutely.
So let's go into that. Let's rewind a little bit. You've gone full time.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk now about your success because we've already established that. We're not going to talk about any of that. We're not going to talk about weddings. What was going on behind the scenes, Mark?
Okay. I'm going to go out and straight away say I am clinically depressed to the point where I am suicidal. That's my baseline. Okay. I can very, very freely talk about this because I am completely acceptant of it. Now, when I say that I'm suicidal, that doesn't mean I want to kill myself. It means that my mindset is telling me that I should. Okay. Doesn't mean I want to, but I'm having to tell my mind that I shouldn't be doing that. The best way that I can describe it is, have you ever driven over a bridge and your mind's just for a fleeting second gone, oh, what would happen if I swerve? That's what I am. That's literally how I live my life. I have attempted suicide 3 times in the past 3 years. Obviously, I've not succeeded because I'm here. But yeah, I've attempted suicide 3 times in the past 3 years. The most recent time, which I don't think anybody actually knows, was only 2 months ago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I have, right. So lockdown came at a really good time for me. I have been struggling with my mental health, my depression, my feelings towards myself. I needed time off. Previous to that, I wasn't allowing myself any time off. I was working. I was doing 7, 8, 9, 10 gigs a week. I was a busy guy, and I never took time for myself. And what I found is that I've always been aware of my depression and stuff, but it was starting to consume me. It was telling me things. It was changing my personality. I became a different person. I'll talk about the more recent one Well, no, let's go back. So my first suicide attempt was actually a week before Blackpool 2018. I ended up in hospital, and I probably shouldn't have gone to Blackpool, if I'm completely honest, because halfway through Blackpool weekend, there was a doctor had to come see me because I was suicidal. I was in a point where I couldn't control myself. I was shaking, my entire body locked up through panic attacks, anxiety, and everything like that. I was in a bad place, a really bad place, to the point where my brother came with me to Blackpool to make sure I didn't do anything stupid. My brother's not a magician. I don't know if you've met my brother or anything like that, but he's not into magic. He's ambivalent to the whole thing. He came to the magic convention to make sure I was okay. So thank you, Neil. That meant a lot. Yeah. So I kind of struggle with that. I've struggled with medication. I've struggled with my feelings and getting things out. Unfortunately, I'd gone through counselling. I'd gone through various levels of therapy and stuff like that, and I thought I had a good grip on it. I'm very articulate when it comes to explaining my mental health. I've even done talks in schools on suicide, in younger males, why that's important that they should talk. I have an hour-long school talk, which I freely give to any school that wants it. And turns out I wasn't quite as in control as I thought. And maybe it's 3 months ago now, I was found by the police outside Costa in Skipton about 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday night, desperate to end everything. The police took me to hospital. So the reason why the police ended up there was I have a crisis number. I have a number in my phone. If there's ever a problem where I can't control my mind, my thoughts, anything like that, I ring that number and a psychiatrist will talk to me. They'll send out a psychiatrist. They'll send meds to me. They'll do whatever. Or unfortunately, I'd gone so far this time that the only safe thing to do was to send the police to come and get me and take me to hospital. That was the only thing. I was very nearly sectioned that night. Yeah. Absolute truth bombs here. I was very nearly sectioned that night. The thing that stopped me from being sectioned was that I asked what would happen to my dog and what would happen to my daughter. That showed that I had self-awareness. So I spent the past 3 months, I spent 2 months, let's say, in what they call a intensive home program, which basically means I'm still allowed to be at home, still allowed to be with my family, with my daughter, this, that, the other. However, I had to go for appointments every 2 days at the hospital. I had to go get medications checked. I had to get my vitals taken. I had to go see therapists every couple of days. There's a happy ending to this. I was discharged like 2-3 weeks ago. I am no longer in the mental health service, other than I'm on medication for my depression. But yeah, I worked really fucking hard to get myself back to who I wanted to be, so that I wasn't this thing that cried for no reason, that didn't understand, that got angry for no reason, that just didn't want to exist, that I didn't even want to go for a coffee with people. I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to stay in this house where I am now, and I didn't want the world to see me. I was completely happy never seeing another human being in my life. And I'm actually really glad that I had that breakdown, because that got me the help that I really, really, really needed. I'd got help and it was great, in the previous sort of 2.5-3 years. But this was just another level. And I tell you what, the NHS and the mental health service is under a lot of pressure at the moment. But I tell you what, if you need that help, they give you that help. I've never felt so looked after in my entire life. It was amazing. They tried me on different meds. I had 2 different therapists, one for a trauma, which I won't go into, but something had happened last year, which probably actually was part of the reason why I had this big breakdown. So I had a trauma therapist and I had a general depression therapist, if you like. I was seeing therapists every couple of days, but yeah, I just worked at it and I got better. But the thing is that you work in an entertainment industry, you spend your entire life making people happy, making them laugh, making them feel on top of the world, and it's that tears of a clown thing. You spend so much attention on making other people happy that you forget about your own happiness, you forget about your own well-being. I had to take time for me, and I'd never done that. And lockdown gave me that chance to do it. Unfortunately, I needed to have a subsequent breakdown after that. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time focusing on me. So you've said all these beautifully wonderful, lovely things about me and my career, but I've kind of hit a reset. I'm still busy. I'm still working just as ever as I was, but it's made me really sit back and think about what's important. I take a lot more time for me now. There's certain gigs I won't take, not for any pretentious reasons, other than I just want a bit of time for me. You know, I don't want to spend 4 nights on the road not seeing my daughter. I want to have family time. I want to do things. I want to be able to go out for tea on a Saturday night with my mum and dad. I want to, you know, be able to see my friends and stuff. This industry doesn't really afford you that. It doesn't give you the opportunity to go out and socialise with people when people socialise, you know. A lot of my friends nowadays are in hospitality. They work in restaurants and bars because their days off are the same as mine. You know, Monday, Tuesday is our weekend. But I wanted to see my family and people like that. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time focusing on me, my health, and what's really important. And do you know what? Yeah, I've had a great career, but none of it really matters. You know, the thing that matters is that I'm happy now. I have never felt so good in my life as I do right now. Unfortunately, I had to hit rock bottom to realize that. But I've never ever felt so good. I'm on the right medication rather than the generic one that you get given. I'm on a specific one that is for my needs, to do with my sleep, with the kind of depression that I have, the way that my depression works. Honestly, I feel great now. So yes, there's a sad story. Yes, there was times when I didn't think I was going to make it to the next day, but I'm here and I've fought through it all and I've got better. So I want to say this as well, but if anybody out there is listening to this and they feel they have any trigger or any hint of being depressed, feeling suicidal, feeling hopeless, drop me a message. There is absolutely no judgment whatsoever, and I'll talk to you for as long as you need. I don't care who you are. I don't care whether we're best friends or mortal enemies. If you feel like you've hit absolutely rock bottom with it and you don't know whether you can make it to tomorrow, drop me a message and I'll do everything I can to help out.
That's great. That's great. And like I said at the beginning of this interview, you are one of the nicest people I know. You help anybody selflessly and never expect anything back in return. And that's one of the reasons I love you so much. You're amazing. You really are.
But yeah, I know that got a bit deep, and I know there was a bit of a, well, you didn't know that I'd been in hospital, so yeah, I kind of kept it on the QT, but it's part of my history, and I've never hidden away from it.
One thing you touched on it with entertainers, and you are right. We spend our entire lives entertaining and making people happy, and then we spend hours on the road, lonely, just driving from gig to gig.
Oh, this bit.
It really is. What advice would you give somebody that haven't hit rock bottom, that haven't felt like they need to end it all, but they are feeling increasingly overwhelmed or frustrated with where they are, which is how it starts a lot of the time, isn't it? It's kind of like, and I've seen this over lockdown. I've seen people going, oh, I can't do this magic anymore. I can't even be bothered to pick up a pack of cards. I'm fed up. I've had enough. For those people that are just not happy, have you got any advice?
You need a good network. You need a really good network of people around you. You'll know you'll do it just as much as I do, but I spend a lot of my time driving around the country to job here, there, job there, everywhere. And I've now got to the point where I ring my friends. You know, every car's now got a built-in phone or whatever. You know, they've got a SIM card or whatever. I ring my friends, and I ring people that are in the same industry, maybe not necessarily in magic, but in weddings or in acting or whatever, that are experiencing the same sort of things. Maybe not feeling down like I was, but we just chat about things. The other week, I filled an entire drive from Birmingham to Whitby, which is 173 miles. I spent the entire journey talking to one of my best friends, and we just talked about everything and nothing. And I tell you what, that just got me through that day, you know. And this is even me talking now when I'm in a good place, you know. Being on the road for 4 hours, being on the road for 6 hours, being on the road for however long, it's soul destroying, isn't it? You know, you get stuck on the M6, you get stuck on the whatever, and you're on your own, you're stressed out, you've got a deadline, you've got to get to a certain place. I just spend time talking to people now, or listening to podcasts, or I've got a playlist of the cheesiest, campest music you will ever hear. And if I'm starting to feel low, I whack that on, and I am like Mariah Carey in my car. Honestly, I am wanging it out, and I don't give a shit who watches. You've just got to do whatever it takes to make you feel happy. And when you get to work, be friends with everybody. Don't be that I am the almighty magician. Be friends with everybody, because if you're friends with everybody, they're going to want to talk to you. And when you're on your break or when you're waiting for something, you'll sit and have a chat together. Just make your network as broad as possible. That's my advice.
That's great advice. That is great advice. And I'm so glad that you're in a good place, Mark.
Honestly, a great place. It sounds weird because, 3 months ago, I was in the lowest place possible, whereas now it's like none of it ever happened. But I'm glad it did happen, because it gave me a chance to think about what was important and to work on me and to work on the important things. It's like when I'm stressing. I mean, you may have seen on Facebook, I spend a lot of time cooking. I love my cooking, and it's a case of, if I'm feeling a bit stressed out or whatever, I'll go and cook something. That's my happy place now. That's my escape from reality. Being in my kitchen through there. One of my favorite places in the world is that, and I can create, and I can tinker, and I can create some amazing meals, and that's my happy place. And you've got to find your happy place. You've got to find your network, stuff like that.
That's great. And we went really deep on this, and
we did, and I wanted to actually.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, though, people have got this idea of mental health being actually quite a fluffy thing. It's okay not to be okay, which I agree with. It is okay not to be okay. Times will pass and stuff like that. But actually, behind every person who says it's okay, it's okay not to be okay. And these phrases, if you like, there's someone who is literally trying not to die, but nobody ever talks about that. And I think it's important that people understand the nitty-gritty side of it, the side of it where you are literally pleading with yourself to not kill yourself. I've got a video on my phone from 2018, and I filmed it as a way to explain to my mum and dad what I was feeling, because I couldn't put it into words. And what I did is I set my phone up on I was having a panic attack, and it was leading into a suicidal episode. I set up my phone and I filmed the entire thing. Everything that I said, everything that I did, every way that I acted, the way that I was just complete. There was no way to stop me crying, things like that. And I showed that to me. I said, I got no words. This is going to hurt you. This is going to really hurt you, but you've got to watch this. And my mum sat and watched the entire thing, and she went, I get it now. I completely get it. Because we only ever hear the fluffy side of it, the celebrities on TV going, oh yeah, we've got to do this, be kind and stuff like that. Which I agree with. I agree with every aspect of that. But you've got to understand there is a really dark, horrible side to it as well, and you are just fighting to get through to the next day. And I've won that fight every single day.
Yeah, that's amazing. That really is. That's you're an inspiration. You really are. And I really hope. No, you are. And I really hope so many people are watching this. And I said to you, we were going to discuss this, and we were going to talk about some deep stuff, and I was going to ask you some tough questions. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you one more tough question.
Sure.
Probably even more tough than what we've just asked. Why don't you do the Lego thing anymore? Because Rylan loves Lego, and he used to follow your page. And I remember when you were building the whole Five Guys thing, it was amazing. He would literally go on my phone to watch that, and then all of a sudden we don't see Lego, and it's like, when I told him I was interviewing you, he was like, when's Mark going to start doing Lego again? I'm sorry, I need to ask the real questions on this interview, Mark. So for the frame of reference of people, Mark had this whole amazing Lego journey. Never seen anyone build Lego like it. He got to a point where he's actually getting contracts from huge companies to do custom created Lego creations.
Yeah.
And we just don't see it anymore.
I stopped doing it.
Bring the Lego back.
I didn't have time. That was the thing. So part of my history as well is I'm a single full-time dad. I have a full custody of my daughter as well. So I have all the bloody time, and I just haven't had time. I just haven't had time between raising a child on my own, and I'm out of frame. I've gone too slacky, my little thing. I'm slowly sinking into this shit. So I just in between, family life, home life, friends. I just ran out of time, to be honest, and I put a lot of focus into work. And Blackpool takes up a lot of my year now as well. it's only getting busier as well. That's why. Having said that, I've started clearing out the office, and I'm making a little space for all my Lego stuff to be out again. So, Ryland, watch this space. There may be something coming up.
I'm excited. This is good. This is good. Now, I'm going to ask you one last question, which is,
Sure.
What's next? Because we talked about how you're still just as busy as before, but you're finding more time for yourself. You're looking after yourself. You're looking after your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely amazing. But you're still very in demand. You're still very, very busy. But also, we touched on this at the very beginning. You've now started doing acting as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you mentioned something off camera about getting involved in some Halloween stuff over Halloween. What I suppose what's next in the short term? You want to tell us a little bit about the acting thing and what you've got planned and what your goals or aspirations are, but more importantly, what are your plans moving forward? Do you have anything on your magical bucket list that you haven't yet hit? Is there something that you want to do? Is there something you want to achieve? Or are you just happy carrying on doing doing what you're doing?
To be honest, I'm in terms of magic, I'm happy where I am. And I don't mean that in a complacent sort of way. It's like I know I'm very good at what I do, and I do it to a good level. And I think because of that, I've never really thought about what's next with it. I want to get back into the stage thing, but I don't see myself being, on cruise ships and stuff like that. My personal life won't allow me to be on cruise ships. I've got my daughter all the time, so that I can't do that kind of thing. What I accidentally I ended up with a publicist. Okay. So I ended up in a couple of national newspapers, maybe about 5 months ago. They were looking for a single dad who was trying to date in this COVID time, whilst also bringing up a daughter. So I ended up with a double page feature in the Sun. Okay, that then led on to me being a featured dad bringing up his daughter on his own, and a dad learning how to do girl things. And that ended up with a double page feature in the Daily Mail. So as a result, I ended up with a publicist. And she's now put me forward for a lot of adverts. I'm getting, we're working on getting adverts at the moment. I'm being put forward for loads of stuff at the moment. But what I've decided to do in the meantime, I want to actually do some things that I've never really done before. So I've started doing a lot of improv acting. I've been acting in viral videos. I'm filming some viral video stuff next week. And I've decided that one of the things that I really like in life, one of my chill out things, is theme parks, and specifically Halloween scare attractions. And I love being scared shitless. I absolutely adore it. So I kind of went, ooh, I'd quite like to be on the other side of that bit of black curtain. I want to be the one that jumps out rather than the one being jumped at. And so I started applying around, and because even my magic thing is all based on improv. It's improv comedy. It's reactive. It's this, that, the other. I've kind of ended up doing all this improv acting stuff. And I went, well, actually, scare acting's kind of improv. So I got offered to do Alton Towers. I decided not to go with that in the end, because Alton Towers from my house is a 2.5 hour drive. And I can't imagine doing scare acting until 10 o'clock at night, then driving 2.5 hours home to go pick up my daughter, so I can take her to school the next morning, so that I can go back to Staffordshire the next day and repeat for a month. So I've ended up, there's actually one that's quite close to me, called Screamfields. So I've just this very day today, I've been booked on that. They know my history, they know my improv ability and stuff like that. So I'm a scare actor this October. I'm enjoying the acting stuff. I'm enjoying doing these silly little videos. I'm enjoying doing stuff like that. There's always new opportunities, and I've just realized that it doesn't always have to be about magic. It's still the same thing in my head, because I'm improv, I'm having fun. Pretty much everything I do is comedy based. So it's just an extension of that. That's kind of where I'm going. And the reason for it is I wanted to fill in the dates in the diary that there isn't weddings. There's not very many weddings on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. I figured that those are days that I'm not earning money, so I might as well earn money on them. So I'll do whatever it takes now. I'm somewhat of a workaholic. Whilst being very much aware of my work-life balance at the moment, I'm very much a workaholic as well. I enjoy being out there. I enjoy doing new things. was something that most people don't know as well, as I used to work for Emmerdale as well. I was a consultant for there. So I've been in the TV background as well. I've been talking heads on radios for years. So it's always been there, but that's been more accidental. People coming to me going, can you do this? Whereas now I'm actually pushing myself out there to go get those gigs and to do those things. So yeah, that's kind of me at the moment. I'm enjoying it. I'm hoping that with my new publicist, I mean, she's so lovely. I think the plan is to kind of get me on telly, not necessarily as a magician, but think of it as a kind of Stephen Mulhern sort of thing, someone who was a magician and still will be a magician. This isn't me retiring or anything like that. It's just me adding a little bit of an extra.
Let me ask you one question.
Mm.
I know you love magic. You wouldn't do stuff with Blackpool if you didn't. Here's the question. The TV thing takes off. The acting thing takes off. You're on a really big gig, but as a result of it, you don't really have time to ever do magic ever again. You can't be a wedding magician anymore. You basically have to choose between having wedding gigs or doing this other thing. Would you give up magic?
If it allowed me to have more time with my family, yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'd always still be popping up at conventions. I'd still be involved with Blackpool just as much. I'd still be involved with the Magic Circle. I'd still be doing this, that, the other. I just wouldn't have to rely on it for an income. It wouldn't pay me bills. That's the only difference. I think I'd probably actually start doing magic for magicians if I was in that position. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't need to do it. I'd probably enjoy doing it. Like I class Blackpool as a holiday. It's my weekend off. That's why I don't do the magic, and that's something I probably should have said earlier. But because I class it as my weekend off. That's why I don't do tricks, because the last thing I want to do, it's like a busman's holiday, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Last thing I want to do on my day off is do more magic tricks. So yeah, but imagine it might go back to being a hobby then, and that would be quite nice. I'd love to experience it as a hobbyist again, but I need to earn a living, and whilst I'm in demand, you make hay whilst the sun shines, and if the TV thing does kick off, great. I'll still keep doing it. Do you know what? I don't care how big it gets with the TV stuff. I'll still do weddings. Do you know what I mean? Probably won't be doing as many, but I'll still do a few. I think that'd be quite a nice thing to do. Keep it real. That's how I'd say it.
Amazing. Mark, this has been an incredible interview. It really has.
Thank you.
I've been wanting to get you on here for a while. I'm glad that you found time because, like I said, you are very, very busy.
Well, no, I'm glad that I'm honoured that you asked me to do this as well. So thank you, Craig. I've been watching the channel. I've been listening to the podcast. You keep me company in my car most weekends. It's going to be weird when I listen to this myself. I'm like, oh God, he's got some good advice.
Well, you know what? Thank you for keeping it real as well, because it would have been very easy to come on here and be light and fluffy and just play it safe, and you've gone on here and you've been real, and that's not an easy thing to do, and it shows where you are, that you can talk openly about this.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. You should, it may not be easy to, if you're experiencing the same things that I've experienced, it might not be easy to speak about it now, but one day it'll get easy. And when it can, we are performers, we are entertainers, we are showmen. Why not use that skill to put across what mental health actually is and what it feels like? We can articulate it, we can put it across in a way that people will listen, and that's kind of how I've looked at it. It's like we all go through these journeys for reasons, and if my reason was to stop somebody else from feeling that low, then perfect.
Amazing. Where can people connect with you? We've talked about your website where they can get the book, which is great. You've got Instagram as well.
I've got Instagram. I've got Twitter, although I don't really use it. I mostly use it for giving shit to my politician. That's pretty much all I use Twitter for. I've got Facebook. You can find me in all those at Waddington Magic. Drop me a friend request, Mark Waddington. I'm there. There's a picture of me winking with a key ring in my hand. Go find me on there.
And is that the best place to message you when you said, like, if anybody's reach out to you?
It really is, yeah. Mark, because I take a lot of work through Facebook anyway, so my Facebook is always there, even though I might not be as active sometimes, and it might take me a little while. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if you message I can be instantly on there, but the second I can, I'll be replying, I'll be asking for your number so I can give you a call or whatever. I'll make sure you're okay, but I am there for you. But yeah, find Mark Waddington on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, OnlyFans, Tinder. I'm joking. I'm not on OnlyFans, but yeah, you can find me, and I would love to make new friends. This is what it's about, and it's all about making new friends in this life. So,
Absolutely, mate. Thank you so much for being on the channel. Like I said in the beginning, you are absolutely one of the good guys, and whatever you end up doing, I know you're going to be successful because you're just that sort of guy. So thanks, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Guys, do me a favor, leave a comment down below on this video, and let Mark know what you thought of the interview. He will read all of the comments. So leave a comment down below. Reach out to Mark, connect with him. He is one of the good guys in magic. And, you know, if you're watching this and you want more advice on wedding magic, go and get his book.
Please do.
He's a wealth of knowledge. And don't forget, 3 videos tomorrow. There's going to be 3 videos the next day. There's going to be 26 videos this week. So make sure that you subscribe. And I'll be back again tomorrow with another video. Mark, thanks very much. I'll see you soon.
Anytime, fella. See you soon.